Okay, turn 4. Another 11 dice to draw. I should mention as well that another slight difference in the rules, or something to cope with the fact that there are theoretically 3 players, is that in a 1 against 1 game, you take a morale check when your army gets to a third of its army value. Whereas with this, when it gets to 2/3, when it's lost 1/3. Whereas with this, you take a morale check on the individual army when it gets to 2/3, but you break when the entire force, both armies, have reached half their value. So it's slightly different. But the Vikings have lost 8 so far, and they've got a long way to go yet. They take a check on 15, I think it is. Yeah, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So it's going to be an allied initiative. We'll take the 4 Norman dice out for the moment. All these. Right, good rolls for the Vikings, not so much for the Anglo-Danes. 3 6s, a 5, a 1 that's no use. Whereas the Anglo-Danes have got a 3 and a 2. Right, well, I can't use the 2, there's nothing I can spend it on. And over here are the only 2 units that I could spend the 3 on. I could either put the 3 on there, because they are 4 down to 3 with the commander, but that wouldn't allow them to charge those knights, but it would give them impetus if they were attacked by those knights. Or the alternative is to put them on this 3 here. Those housecarls have an initiative of 3, a discipline of 3, and that will keep that melee going. I had to take a risk, and I've put them on there because the Normans only have 4. They're only going to roll 4 dice. So what I'm hoping is I'm going to oblige them to kind of concentrate over here. I've put 6s on all of those Viking units that are engaged in melee, and that will that might force the Normans to put some of their good rolls on these units over here to counter that. And I've put the other one, a 5, on there just in case the Normans decide to charge them. So really, part of the way you win at the Sword and Spear is to force your opponent to spend dice where you want him to, and I don't want him to spend the dice over there and catch them, because they're a little bit vulnerable at the moment. So we'll have to see what happens with the Norman roll now. Right, so the Normans have just got 4 dice to roll, so it really depends whether they manage to get good dice facings. Well, they've got 1 1, so they've only got 3 dice to spend, and the rest of them are all 5s. So let's see what they can do with that. Well, I'm going to put 1 5 on there. I'm going to ignore those 2, so they're going to be without impetus, but they are fighting a solitary unit, so they will get bonuses for friendly units in contact with the enemy. So I put another 5 on there against that one to give them impetus in that melee, and I have put the other 5 on here, which will allow them to charge those cavalry, and the cavalry that receive the charge won't have impetus, whereas these guys will have impact. So first thing to play will be this melee here, because this is the lowest number. So the housecarls, or the Anglo-Danish housecarls, have a strength of 4, and they have impetus because they've got an activation dice, so they get 5 dice. Whereas the Norman archers have a strength of 3 and no impetus, so it's a roll of 5 dice against 3. Okay, so the Anglo-Danes have rolled a 6, 2 3s and 2 2s, and the Norman archers have rolled a 4, a 2, a 1. You remove the 5th one, and the empty space there counts as a phantom 2, so that is a draw. Over here, that is an automatic kill because it's more than double. That is a discipline test, and that is a discipline test. So the Normans have to get a discipline roll of 4. But it's immaterial. Actually, it's immaterial because they've got strength of 3 and they've already got 2 casualties on them. So that one will break them. Right. Well, this is interesting because for a start, there's a unit there that has to take a discipline test because it's in the route path. Let's just add dice there. So they've got a discipline of 3, and they passed that. But had they failed, that would have meant they would have taken a casualty and would no longer be fresh, and therefore wouldn't have impact against those guys there. Now, I am going to opt. If you're not cavalry and you're not impact foot, you're not obliged to pursue. But I am going not to try and stop them. I'm not going to roll a discipline test to stop them. I'm going to allow them to pursue, and they will contact the side of that unit, thus engaging them in melee and causing that dice facing to go to a 1. So it's worked out quite well because they then won't be able to charge this unit of knights here. Right, so the archers come off the table, and I've got to take a dice out of the bag for them because they hadn't got one next to them. The housecarls steam ahead. They hit the knights in the flank, so even if they had started the charge in a line in front of them, it still counts as a flank attack in this set of rules. In a lot of rules it wouldn't do, but in this set of rules it does. They fight a melee, but neither side can now have impetus, so that means that that goes to a 1 without it being used. So the housecarls have a strength of 4, and they are attacking a flank, so they do get a bonus dice for that. And the knights simply have a strength of 3. Sorry, I'll put blue dice there rather than yellow. So it's 5 dice against 3. Normans are in trouble. 3 3 3 against a 5, a 5, a 4 and a 4, and the 2 doesn't count. Right, so a phantom 2 there, but that's double, so that's an automatic kill. Discipline test and a discipline test. Yeah, that's right. So they've got 1 definite kill and 3 possibles, so they've got discipline of 3. There's another kill there, so they've got 2 kills. So they haven't broken, but they're pretty much broken. Right, so I put 2 casualty markers against them, turn their dice to a 1, which means that charge isn't going to happen. And then next up, the next highest number are the 5s. So the Normans can either initiate that melee there or that melee there. And I think we're going to go for this one here. So this isn't going to be very good. No, I think we're going to go for this one here actually, because I think they're likely to lose that, thinking about it. Yeah, we'll do this one first. Might have made a mistake there by putting a dice on them at all. Right, so they are strength 3, and they have an impetus because of the dice, so they get 4 dice. They are strength 4, have impetus 5, and a bonus for the 6 being 6. So it's 6 dice against 4. Sorry, it's 6 dice against 5 because the Norman cavalry is fresh, so fresh cavalry with impetus get an additional dice as well. Right, so the Vikings have got 5, 5, 5, 4, 3 and 2, so we can take away, we're just looking at the top 4. And the Normans have got 6, 3, 3, 3, and we'll take away the 2. The Viking unit isn't fresh, so it hasn't got, it can't use shield wall, so it hasn't got any armour. So that is a discipline test. The Normans have got armour, so they're going to change that down to a 3, making that a draw. So the Vikings have won 2 of them, requiring discipline tests, and they're discipline 3 down to 2 because of the Norman commander that's with them. So they pass both of those. Whereas the Vikings don't have armour, can't adjust that down and require a discipline test. And I think they're discipline 4, I'll just check. Yep, they're discipline 4. And they get a 5, so they're fine. I definitely made a mistake there, because missile foot aren't allowed, medium foot aren't allowed impetus against heavy foot anyway, so putting a dice on them doesn't make the blind bit of difference, whereas had I put the 5 with over here with this one that was a 5, it would have given them a bonus over there. But never mind, I'm going to stick with my mistakes. So the Normans have 3 dice, the Vikings have strength of 4, 1 for impetus rather than impotence, and a 6 as well, so they get 6 dice altogether against the Normans 3. 6, 5, 3, 2, and 2 ones which we'll take away, against 4, 4, 1 and a phantom 2. So that's a draw, we can get rid of that. Right, no armour or anything, so they've already got 2 kills on them, so that's an automatic kill, so that will do them in. So we don't have to bother about discipline tests for those. They're routed. Right, so these archers are coming off the table. Let's put them to one side for the moment. Dice goes with them, with the 3 facing upwards, so the Normans have now lost 12. I think they've got to get to about 21 before they take a morale check. But there are discipline tests to take on the route path, so 6 inches back, measured from the front edge, would include that one there, and that one there, because it's 1 DU to either side as well. So they are all discipline 3, so we'll start with this one here. They get a 3, so they're fine. This one here, they get a 5, so they're fine, and this one here, they get a 2, so they're going to take a casualty. Right, and then I don't want them to pursue because they haven't got enough distance to reach these cavalry here, so I want to keep them back if possible, so I've got to take a discipline test on them to prevent them from pursuing, and they are discipline 4. I rolled a blue dice, I think. Oh, discipline 3, right, so they do go forward. So they're going to get to about here. And we turn that to a 1. Right, now the next thing to do, because the Normans, is this one here. So the centre of the front edge of this one is contacting this guy here. So they're fighting, those two units fighting with this one supporting them. So, strength of 4, plus 1 for impetus, plus another for the bonus 6, gives them 6 dice. These guys have a strength of 3. They don't have, because I'd made that decision not to put any dice against them, they don't have impetus, so they just got their 3, but they do get an additional dice for the friendly unit touching the enemy they're fighting, so it's 6 against 4. Wow, what's the 6s again? The Vikings have rolled 3 6s, a 3 and 2 2s, so the 2 2s aren't going to get involved. The Normans have rolled 2 6s, a 5 and a 5. Now, the Vikings are the housecarls who have two-handed weapons, which means that ignores armour. So the Normans can't use their armour to reduce that down to a draw. Whereas the Vikings themselves have armour. So let's get rid of these two, because these are both draws. That's a win. They have armour, but they can only take that down to 4, so it's still a discipline test for each side. So the Normans have a discipline of 3, and they get a 5, so they're okay. And the housecarls have a discipline of 3 as well. Oh, plus they've got the commander with them, so they've got discipline of 2, and they get a 4, so they're fine as well. So the only other thing I have to do now is to put this down to 1, and then to take a dice out of the bag that goes there. You don't put 1 for the supporting unit, but you do have to put 1 for the one that's just fought the melee. So that gets put to a 1 there. So made a big mistake there, but it goes to show how much you have to think about the way you place the dice. And the Anglo-Danes did well on the other side. But there's a bit of a struggle going on in the middle there. Difficult to say which way that will go. Right, so another 11 dice out of the bag. I did have another 5 on the Vikings on the other side of the stream, but I deferred with that. I decided so I wasn't going to use that. That was there just in case they got charged by the cavalry. So I've taken that dice off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Need 2 more, and it's going to be a Allied initiative. Yeah, by a lot. Let's have a look in the bag again, see what's left. It should be, yeah, loads of blues. Okay, so we'll take the 3 Norman dice away for the moment. Looks like the Anglo-Danes are going to be busy in this phase. If they didn't throw so many 1s, they would be. I've got a feeling this is a great weakness of the Anglo-Dane army, I'm afraid, which is showing up now, because they've got so many high disciplined figures, so badly disciplined units, that I've got a feeling a lot of these 3s and 2s aren't going to be any use to them either. That 1 is no use to the Vikings. So out of all that, we've got 5 dice to put on, 3 of which may not be any use. Yeah, unfortunately all those dice are of no use now, because the only discipline 3 unit in the Anglo-Danish army are those housecarls who are already activated this phase. These guys here are discipline 3 as well, because they're discipline 4 down to 3 because of the commander. But I want them to charge there, so I can't put the 3s on them because you need 1 higher to charge, so I'll put the 4 on, and they will hopefully sweep these cavalry away now, because they only need 1 more casualty to break. because they will have their strength plus impetus plus fresh cavalry plus a friendly unit contacting the enemy, so they'll have a lot of dice to roll. And the solitary 5 over here, I've just put back on this one that I didn't use it on last go and deferred, just in case the Normans get a chance to charge, because these shield maidens are just out of reach. Otherwise I'd use them to get into that melee there. So I'll be a bit cautious over here. So now we've got 3 Norman dice to roll to see what they come up with. Wow, 2 6s and a 3. So there's nothing I can do to salvage that situation because they've already had a dice on them. Let's go. So I put one of the 6s here to give me a bonus in this fight, because they're fresh cavalry with impetus, and a bonus will give them somewhere around 6 dice against those guys, and they're 2 away from breaking. Over here I've decided to give 1 6 to these chaps to charge into them, and the 3 over here just to initiate another melee there. So they won't get much in the way of bonuses, but they will get one for the additional unit beside. So they've got 2 losses on them as well at the moment, so maybe they could do something there. So the first thing to do will be that 3 there. So we've got to work out the strengths here. Okay, so the Normans start with a strength of 3. They have impetus because they've got that dice there, but they are no longer fresh cavalry, so they're not fresh cavalry with impetus, so they don't get a bonus for that. But they do get a bonus for having this adjacent unit in contact with the enemy, so they end up with 5 dice. The housecarls have a strength of 4, but no impetus because they've already used that dice this turn, nothing else, so it's going to be 5 dice against 4. The housecarls have armour, but they're fighting with 2-handed weapons, so that negates the Norman armour. 6, 4, 3, 3 against 5, 5, 2 and 1, and that one is the 5th one that can come off. Right, so that is a Viking win, so it's a discipline test for the Norman. That is at the moment a Norman win, that is a Viking win discipline test, and that is a Viking win double. So that is a definite kill to the Normans. The Vikings can use their armour to drop this down to a 4, making that a draw. So there are 2 discipline tests for the Normans to take, and they have got a commander with them, so they've got a discipline of 2. And they fail 1 and save 1, and that means that they've got 2 kills on top of the one they've already got, so they will break. So that didn't work out well for them, so we take them off the table. Those Viking housecarls are made of strong stuff. The dice goes with them, I believe they're army value 4. The housecarls can't pursue because they're in contact with another enemy, so that means that the commander will be killed on a 6, and he rolls a 5, so it's lucky that he would have been killed if the Vikings had pursued. So I can move the commander to an adjacent unit. I think he has to move to the nearest one, so it'll be that one there. And that's the end of that melee. No, the other thing I've forgotten to do, which you probably realised, is a discipline test. So this unit, and this unit all need to take discipline tests. So these are now discipline 2, and they get a 6. These are discipline 3, and they get a 5, and these are discipline 3, and they get a 2. So they get another casualty. I think there's a kind of corner within the route path there, so I'm going to roll one for them as well, just to be strict. So they're discipline 2. And they rolled a 5, so they're okay as well. Right, that is the end of that melee. So that was the 3 facing where that took place. So the next thing will be the 4s, starting with the initiative side. So it's going to be this charge here. So these guys can just pile in there, keeping them offset, remember, it's always important that you do that. And we work out the respective strengths here. Right, so the Anglo-Danish mounted housecarls have a strength of 3. They have impetus for their activation dice, gives them 4. They are fresh cavalry with impetus, gives them 5. And they have a unit contacting the enemy they're attacking, gives them 6, whereas the Normans only have 3 for their strength. So it'll be 6 against 3. Both sides have armour. The Anglo-Danish cavalry don't have the impact characteristic, so they're not automatic kills, any of their wins. 3 6s, 3, and the 2 1s won't come into it. Let's take the top 4 against a 4, a 2, and a 1. Oh, this is looking good for them. So, armour. Right, there's a 2 there. So the Normans can reduce that down to a 2, take that off as a draw. That is a discipline test, but that is more than double, and that is way more than double. So there are 2 kills there. So it doesn't matter that that's a discipline test because they've now lost 4 and they've got a strength of 3, so they break. So these come off the table. The cavalry are obliged to pursue, so they make a full move forward, which is 8 DU. Take them to there. That goes to a 1, and there are no units in the route path of the Normans to take discipline tests for morale. So the Vikings up the end here have a dice facing of 5, but they're just going to defer with that. So then there are 2 6s on the Norman side, so I'm going to do this melee here next. So we're looking at that fight there. So the Normans have strength of 3, impetus gives them 4, fresh cavalry with impetus gives them 5, and a 6 gives them a 6th one, whereas these guys just have a strength of 4 and nothing else, no impetus or anything like that, so it's 6 against 4. Right, the Normans have armour, but the Anglo-Danes have shield wall, which is now broken because they're not fresh. So it's only the Normans are going to make use of armour. What did I say? 6 against 4. 6 4 3 1 opposes 5 5 4 4, and these 2 1s come off. So at the moment that's a win to the Anglo-Danes, but the armour of the Normans will allow them to take that down to 5, making that a draw. That is an automatic kill, and these 2 here are discipline tests. So they've got a discipline of 4 down to 3 because they've got commander with them. And they passed both of them, so they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth because they've now got 3 casualties. So we put another casualty on there. So the only way they're going to rally those off, they were on 6 anyway, but once you go over requiring 6, it doesn't automatically, you don't automatically rout. You can always get rid of one of them with a 6 when you rally. Whether it's worth it or not, I don't know. So the only other thing to do then is this 6 over here. So they charge in to those guys there. So strength of 3 against strength of 4. Nothing in the way of bonuses over here because they've already used their activation dice, but these guys get impetus, gives them 4. Fresh cavalry gives them 5, and the bonus for the 6 gives them 6, so it's going to be 6 against 4 again. This Viking unit, excuse me, is another one with shield wall, and they're fresh, so they will get the benefit of the shield wall this time, and the Normans have their armour. 5, 4, 3, 2, 2 and 1 against 4, 4, 3, 2. Right, so we can get rid of those 2. So as it stands, that's a draw, and that's a draw, and that's a draw. And the shield wall allows the Vikings to put that down from a 5 to a 4, making that a draw as well. So, no upshot from that. So this gets turned to a 1. Something I forgot to do over here was to take a dice out of the bag to put against them. So that gets turned to a 1. That was turned to a 1 as well. Just as another interesting rule, that is the last dice in the bag for the Anglo-Danes. So had there not been one, it wouldn't have mattered. But if there is anything left in the bag, you have to take it out and put it against it when they fight at melee. So that's the end of that phase. So we take off any dice that deferred, which is this one over here, and then take another 11 dice or however many are left out of the bag. So the Normans are actually quite close to their checking for morale now. They've lost 20 points and they need to check on 21. So it seems to be going the Allies' way, but I think it's a slightly closer fight than the 100 Years' War one that I showed you last time. So there were only 9 dice left in the bag, so we take them all out. 3 of them are Viking and the rest are Norman. So the Norman's going to be the active player, so we roll their dice first. Wow, another good roll. 2 6s, 2 5s, 4 and a 2. The 2 is no use to me. I can't find anything to spend it on. I'm going to spend a lot on these units here now to get them to turn around to face this looming Anglo-Danish attack, and most of these units in melee have already been activated, so I'm going to put a 6 on these guys here in the hope that they can charge into these chaps, and the other 6 I'm actually going to use to rally one of those casualty markers off, which you're allowed to do if you spend an activation dice, because they've only got strength of 3, so I really should be looking after those a little bit because I'm close to the army needing to take a morale check for losses. So now it's just a matter of seeing, the Anglo-Danes haven't got any dice to spend, but the Vikings have got 3 that they can roll. See what they do. 2 3s and a 2. Brilliant. Nothing to spend the 2 on, and not much to spend the 3 on. These guys are discipline 4 down to 3, so I'll just advance them forward a little bit, as are these shield maidens 4 down to 3. So I'll just advance those forward, but the bad news is that I now, having deferred and deferred, you have to take the dice off at the end of each action phase, and now they haven't got a dice there. So this charge will come in without them having impetus, and not having impetus means they don't have shield wall either. So the first things to do then, let's see if I got this right, will be these 2 3s here. So they're both heavy foot, so they're not going to be able to move very much. 4 inches will take this one to here. Goes to a 1, and 4 inches. They're only allowed to shift 1 DU, so they're going to be blocked by this slot here. Anyway, they're a little bit further forward. That goes to a 1. And next up are the 4s and 5s over here. So the dismounted knights are heavy foot, so they're not going to be able to do much, but they can both manoeuvre, so I'm going to turn this one round 1 DU that way, backwards. Actually, they can move 2 DU because they're not actually physically going backwards. And these guys can manoeuvre 4 inches, so they can go to there. And these guys could actually, this is quite neat, they could manoeuvre backwards like that. So there's a sort of nice line there. We'll go to 1, and then we're on to the 6s. So rallying here is straightforward. They've got a discipline of 3, and you have to have a dice that's the equivalent or higher than the discipline plus the number of casualty markers they've got. So they've got a discipline of 3, they've got 2 markers, so either a 5 or a 6 facing allows me to take off one of those casualty markers. Right, so the last thing is this charge here, so they can move 8 inches, which is 4 DU, so they're within their normal movement distance. This terrain isn't rough, so even though there's a little bit overlapping there, it's an open hill. So the 6 will give them their bonus. I might have mentioned earlier that they don't get shield wall because they haven't got impetus, but they do get shield wall. They only lose their shield wall if they're not fresh, if they've got casualties. So they have a strength of 4, they have a strength of 3, plus 1 for impetus, plus another for the bonus dice, and a 6th one for being fresh cavalry. So it's going to be a roll of 6 against 4. Both sides effectively having armour. I'm going to try and keep the dice roll next to the action for this one. So 6 against 4. And the Normans haven't done brilliantly. 4 3, 3 2s, 4 2s. And the Vikings have got 5 5 5 and a 1. Right, so we can get rid of those 2. So the Vikings have, oh, that's a double, so there's a Viking casualty there. That's more than double there, so there's a Norman casualty there, and 2 Norman discipline tests at the moment, but they've got armour, so I can reduce that one down to 4, meaning that both sides have taken 1 casualty, and the Normans have to take a discipline test to avoid a 2nd casualty, and they've got a discipline of 3. And they roll a 1, so the Normans have actually come out the worst with that, even with the impetus and so on. So Normans get 2 casualties, Vikings get 1. So this was actually a case in point that it's the end of the turn, so there are no dice left in the bag, so it's impossible to take a dice out to put next to these guys here, but they've got their 1 casualty marker. The Normans have turned their dice to a 1 and got 2 casualty markers, so now it's the end phase, and looking at what I want to do on the Allied side, I would say that but I want to try and keep him there in order to keep all these various bits at the back within command radius, but there's nothing to rally off there, so I might move the commanders around. So there's one against here and one against here, and then roll discipline test to see if I can rally off there. Okay, so the housecarls discipline 3 down to 2 for the commander, 3, 4 for the casualties, and they rolled a 4, so you can get rid of one. And then here, these are discipline 4 down to 3, 4, 5, so they need 5 or 6. And they rolled a 6. Brilliant. Okay, and then over to the Anglo-Danes. I think he's going to quit here. There's 3 casualties on there, so they're not going to last much longer. So I'm going to move him across, not try and rally, but get him safe and put him with the housecarls there. Not housecarls, select feared. And I'm going to keep the king where he is. And the other guys are still attached to the cavalry over there, so I think I'll leave him with those. Now from the Norman point of view, there's nothing to rally off there. Those guys are kind of out of reach, so I can't get a commander to them, so they're just going to have to cope with what they're up to. So I've got one commander over here, and I really want to leave him over there helping that melee. So the only casualty I've got over here is that one there. So I'm going to move him back, attach him there. Right, discipline 3, down to 2 because he's now attached, back up to 3, so I need 3 or better. And a roll of 4, so that can come off as well. And then we take the all the activation dice off, and it's the next turn.